if you're like most people, you probably have a lot of difficulty surrendering to the present experience. You probably have a lot of difficulty just settling into the present experience, learning to align with it, learning to kind of connect with it. Instead, you probably fight against it, you probably resist it quite a lot, and it creates a lot of unnecessary suffering. Keyword there is unnecessary. It's not really needed. It's something that we continuously generate. If you're like most people, you have a lot of difficulty simply feeling safe being present. You have trouble just being in your body. You have trouble just allowing yourself to be open to life. You close down, you're not really in your body, and you just don't feel safe being in the present. There's always, even at a subtle level, there's tensions in the body. There's like something I gotta be doing. You can't just like sit and just be. Sit and just exist. Right? You can't be aligned with the present and where it kind of takes you. You struggle with being open to it, etc. So this is what I'm going to be talking about in today's video. Really, how to start surrendering to life and just struggling against it less. I want to start by talking about the nervous system. Because a lot of our perception of life is going to be created by the nervous system and the state that it's in. So we can have dysregulated states and regulated states. And of course, we're not really taught in our culture in school, by anyone really, how this works, and it's very important. But essentially, the nervous system, when it's in a dysregulated state, it gives us constant perceptions of danger, and it deeply impacts our worldview without us really recognizing it. We constantly think that the world is out to get us, that we can't trust people, etc. We can't just surrender to the present. It's too dangerous because our nervous system is stuck in an unregulated or dysregulated state. Whereas when we begin to bring the nervous system to a state of regulation, we feel anchored, grounded, secure. We feel safe. So I want this to click in, that your nervous system deeply impacts your worldview and you don't recognize it. Essentially, a lot of the beliefs you have, a lot of the stories you have, a lot of the repetitive thoughts that you have, a lot of the repetitive emotions that you have are all being created by your nervous system and, of course, just the subconscious mind. And it kind of just, right, your mind makes up stories, for example, you kind of just believe them, right? A lot of your actual core beliefs about what you are and what reality is and whether it's safe or dangerous, etc. This is coming from the state of your nervous system. So when we increase the well-being of your nervous system, aka just have it be in a more regulated state, you can feel safer, you can feel more grounded, you can process unresolved emotions, your worldview actually starts to change, you feel safe interacting with people, you can actually trust people. I was talking to a man today who just very fundamentally doesn't trust people. I was talking to him in my one-to-one coaching, right? So essentially, a lot of the things that we really hold on to and we really believe are just true are actually misperceptions caused by survival states due to an unregulated nervous system. And these beliefs and perceptions, they ultimately become a self-fulfilling prophecy and a repeating pattern. This means that your mind actually will look for like evidence to remain stuck in its survival mode, and it just perpetuates this cycle. So you have this sort of like perception of like, for example, I can't trust anyone, right? And then it looks for, like, your mind starts to skew reality in this way where it looks for people lying and examples of exactly this, right? So essentially your mind starts to kind of skew reality, and then the pattern actually starts to repeat itself. It doesn't really look at the big picture of life, right? Instead, it's focusing on a minor detail and it's like blowing that up to be the whole. So essentially you just kind of remain stuck in survival mode, and your mind perpetuates this cycle, right? So they become self-fulfilling prophecies and a repeating pattern. But look, this is why I can't trust someone, or this is why the world is so bad. This is why it's so dangerous, because look what happened here. There was a shooting, or you get the point, right? It's just like it looks for it, it blows it up, and then like it doesn't look at anything, any alternative perspective, right? And the nervous system is essentially still in that dysregulated state, which is like the core part here. You're stuck in survival mode. It keeps perpetuating itself. Moving on, when we're actually stuck in this mode, our body is very tense, right? If you actually look at your body throughout the day, I guarantee you there's a lot of unnecessary tension, typically because there's repressed emotion, feeling, and sensation in those parts of your body that you just don't want to feel, right? So the tension in our soft tissues in our body, they actually create this perception of separation. It takes really a lot of courage and awareness to let go of this tension, because it's this sort of habitual guarding ourselves against life, against the present, against other people, against our own selves, right? Really let that sink in. Guarding against your own self, guarding against your own internal world, because it's so fragmented and you're so afraid of it that you have to guard against feelings, sensations, certain thoughts you have, certain emotions that are all kind of repressed and quite literally stored in the body. It's stored inside of you. It's stored in your body. Right, so it takes unconsciousness to hold on to all this stuff unnecessarily, right? Let me explain that point. You're holding on to all this stuff without awareness. It's just this unconscious autopilot mode, right? You're just repeating the same cycles over and over and over again, because this is what our subconscious mind does. It takes a pattern and starts replaying it. This is kind of what happens, and you're not aware that you're doing it. There's no real depth of awareness going on there. Essentially, it's not that it's bad that the subconscious mind replays patterns. It's more so that the pattern itself is harmful, kind of delusional, and creating a lot of suffering. Right? This is the problem, not that the subconscious mind replays patterns. That's totally okay. So it takes consciousness and courage to really let go. You have to courageously investigate your own internal world. You have to really begin to question a lot of the core beliefs that you actually have that continuously lead to suffering. Because I guarantee you, you have beliefs that are deeply emotionally held, and that emotional charge is stuck in the body that creates a lot of unnecessary tension and suffering. I 100% guarantee you that it's there. Unless you've done this kind of work for a very long time. Moving on is when you're actually able to move out of survival mode in the way that I'm talking, right? The nervous system is regulated. A lot of those old beliefs are kind of shattering away. Those beliefs that were just built upon survival and basically nothing more. That tension in the body, right? Tension in the soft tissues, it's kind of dissolving. The perception of being a separate ego, right? A lot of you guys who are into spirituality and non-duality, you'll know what I'm talking about here. You'll be familiar with it. But that perception of being a separate self in a world of separate, solid, fixed objects actually begins to dismantle, because we project our state of being onto the world. We project the solidity that we experience within ourselves, the tensions in the body, essentially, we project onto the world. But when we investigate our actual experience of ourselves, it's just totally fluid, spontaneously arising sensation and just feeling. It's not there's no fixed, static, unchanging thing here. It's fluid, constantly changing, spontaneously arising sensation, thought, emotion, feeling, everything, right? Everything is made out of just this pure consciousness, essentially. It's pure empty consciousness. So you basically become directly aware of that. The actual mechanisms that kept that out of your awareness because you essentially weren't psychologically ready for it, those begin to dismantle, and a very accurate perception of reality begins to emerge. The direct realization of what existence is, what you fundamentally are, your very nature, this begins to emerge. And from here you can actually be present, you can be authentic, you can be open, you can be spontaneous. All of your gifts, your individual gifts as a human, they can really begin to flourish. So you essentially become directly conscious of life's deep intelligence. That intelligence is a metaphysical quality that actually belongs to existence itself. Right? Is your intelligence separate from existence itself? Or is it existence itself? There's no separation between you and existence. The very thing that you are is not a distinct, separate thing from the nature of existence whatsoever. So existence is consciousness, right? And intelligence is metaphysical and it belongs to existence itself, right? Consciousness is intelligent. Moving on. This way of being, I'll leave it at that. This realization, all this kind of work we're doing. It gets you to learn to trust the ups and downs and the roller coaster of life, right? Because you hear all the non-dual stuff of it's bliss and it's this and it's that. But the relative experience doesn't go anywhere. You're still a human who, has a relationship and will have relationship problems if you don't learn to navigate a relationship consciously, right? So there can be ups and downs. People die, people get sick, there's old age, right? Classic Buddhism right there for you, right? But there's grief and loss and all that stuff. So it doesn't go anywhere. It's essentially you're learning to trust the ups and downs of life. You're actually becoming more attuned to life. You hate it less, right? A lot of people like just blatantly hate life. They think it's bad. They think it's evil. They see some sort of, tragic thing happen. Like, oh, life is just like this messed up thing. Like the world is just terrible, right? How many times have you heard that? The world is just crazy. The world is just terrible, right? And these are core beliefs about life that people hold. But of course, it's based on a very limited perspective. It's not a big picture of reality, right? Although within that limited perspective, sure, it can seem crazy. It can seem X, Y, and Z. But that's not really what the nature of our experience is. There's simply more going on beyond what you can really see, beyond what's in your current comprehension. So essentially, you're kind of learning to trust the ups and downs in the roller coaster of life. You're learning to live securely within your own body and awareness, right? And this leads to trust. When you're able to just live within your actual body, this actually naturally leads to just being present, to deep emotional regulation, to deep authenticity, to the realization of pure consciousness. Right? This leads to just trust. This leads to perceptions of safety and just more accurate perceptions of life rather than struggle, perceptions of threat, and less accurate perceptions of life that keep you in a lot of unnecessary suffering. So let me talk very briefly about the body, and then I'm going to end this video. A lot of people experience their body to be like this object. Like they don't feel themselves actually in their body. They don't feel like they're really connected to their body and that they don't feel the quality of themselves in experience. Essentially in their body, in their head, and in everything. And this is just this deep fundamental disconnect, right? And why does this happen? Because there's stuff there that we don't want to feel, right? This goes back to all the nervous system stuff, the tension, the repressed emotion. There's stuff that we don't want to feel, and it skews our perception of life. So then we actually don't feel present in our bodies. And this isn't just like a little thing. I don't want you to take this idea and interpret it as like, oh, I'm more present in my body, and then I'm just kind of going to go on with my life. No. Your body is like the storage area for all the unconscious stuff that you avoid. So when you actually process that stuff, when you're actually learning to really be grounded in yourself, your relationship to yourself, to others, to your sense of life purpose, to your career, etc., this stuff begins to radically change. Your very perception of life begins to radically change the more you can actually embody yourself and really just learn to trust yourself and just feel safe being grounded in the body. Because once you get grounded in the body, you recognize that this quality of self that I am, this experience of myself, right? This is the same self that everyone else is. This is just consciousness. There's only one consciousness experiencing itself as multiple selves, right? We're making a distinction here between pure consciousness, the nature of existence, and then the relativity of it. So if you've ever seen the yin-yang symbol in Chinese philosophy, there's the black side, and then there's the white side. And in the black side, there's a dot of the white, and in the white side, there's a dot of the black, right? And it's kind of just symbolizing the dualistic component of reality between myself and yourself, and me and this tree, and time and space, all these dualistic opposites, masculine and feminine, up and down, left and right, north and south, right? You understand. But then on the outside of the circle, right, there's that, on the outside of the yin-yang symbol, there's a circle that's encompassing it all, right? It's including all of it. So consciousness is, that sort of like circle that's including the relative component of myself and yourself, right? Consciousness transcends and includes this relative existence. It's fundamental to it. It's totally permeated through it. And it's also totally transcendent. It's very strange, very paradoxical, right? There's only one self in existence, like I said, but simultaneously we can have this sort of illusion of multiple selves, right? But there's also this inclusion of that illusion. So it's like we're waking up to our true nature, but also we're not rejecting our relative life. You're not using this information to reject or avoid your life, your problems in life, your feelings, etc. That would be spiritual bypassing. I'll make a video on that in the future. But that's all I can do for this video. If you're interested in working one-to-one with me, you can apply to do so. Link is in the pinned comment. Take it easy.